Show Season 2, Episode 26 starts now. Welcome to the program, MCU News Galore. You know how I like to do it. We have a special guest today. I'm your host, Brandon Davis, joined today by Jenna Anderson.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. We got Jamie Jirac.
Good morning.
Woo, look at Jamie Jirac, feeling good. We love to see it. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
That's a little dance right there. Aaron Reed is here.
Happy Love and Thunder Eve for all who celebrate. Let's go.
Or if you're Layla, happy Love Another Day, right? Because the rest of the world gets it a day early because everybody's better than us. And honestly, sometimes I think that. But anyway, welcome to the show. We have a very special guest on Phase Zero today. I'm very excited to announce that we're going to celebrate the release of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. It's now streaming on Disney+. It's hitting Blu-ray and 4K on July 26th. And to get ready for that so you can watch it in all its HD glory and really, really analyze this person's work really in HD form. I bet that's not nerve-wracking in any way. We have the costume designer Graham Churchyard here on Phase Zero. Graham, welcome to Phase Zero.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us.
Great. Hi, how you doing?
I'm great. It's an absolute pleasure to talk with you. I'm a big fan of your work. You also worked on Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think is fun to note. Two movies that I did not get to visit the sets of. Jim Viscardi stole the Guardians of the Galaxy set visit from me back in the day, and Doctor Strange happened nowadays, so the doors weren't even opened. But I got to see the costumes in person at the premiere, which was incredible. So I want to start with a compliment of your work. Really brilliant work you did on Doctor Strange, and thank you for joining us to talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolute pleasure.
So Jenna, I'm actually going to let you start us off here with the interview here.
Awesome. So the new Doctor Strange costume, like the main costume he wears throughout the movie, is just so good and so comic accurate. I was curious what your influences were, and also how many of those costumes existed, because I'm assuming you would need a lot.
You mean the main 616?
Yes.
with his sentinel cloak? Yeah. Well, that was a revisit because for some reason he as Master of Mystic Arts, he didn't get a upgrade for his costume. As you all know, I'm talking to people like you don't know, but basically he wore the same costume in Endgame as he did in Doctor Strange. So after like 5 appearances, correct me if I'm wrong, but then with some crazy COVID rescheduling, with Spider-Man 3 not happening when it did, he ended up wearing the same disciple costume in that movie as well. So he was ready for an upgrade, and the studio wanted it. Kevin particularly wanted us to maybe go a bit further, but we found a balance that here's the thing: the cloak, it kind of only sits in one place, this asymmetric, amazing bit of fabric engineering. And I know everyone would have liked it to have been sort of further back from the body, because in the comic world, you can redraw it however you want. But when it's a real thing, it has to kind of sit where it sits. So what I'm saying is that in upgrading the Strange costume, we did go back to the comics, and the studio and all the guys at VizDev, Ian Joyner and Ryan Meinerding, they wanted us to introduce and amplify the costume. So we got brighter, we got bigger on the T symbol, and we made that kind of pop a lot more. And you get to see it a lot because, you know, there's big sequences in the movie where cloak is not there, so you do just get to see the whole thing in its beauty, and it's so detailed. It's incredibly detailed. I can't even tell you how many hours it takes to make one of those, but now it's you know, seeing them in real life. I mean, I went to the premiere and it was amazing to see everything on the stands there at the El Capitan and all of those kind of places. But yeah, just to make full use out of the IMAX and the 4K Blu-ray that's coming out is going to be something else, close to a cinematic experience. But hey, I just kind of stand behind it all, and it's got so much detail. It will not it will live up to all that 4K resolution and scrutiny.
I think it will withstand the test of 4K. Having seen them, it does look fantastic. You mentioned the Spider-Man that he was in Spider-Man before this, and originally this was supposed to release before Spider-Man. And I
Correct.
when like the team started to come together when you joined the project, but did shifting it around and stuff like that, or like I know there was a lot of
Well-
reshoots that very late in the production. Like how much of those changes like affected your work on the costumes? Like did it make it more difficult? Did it give you chances to make new costumes or look at Spider-Man and say, hey, we want to work with the team that John Watts has and make sure we're collaborating there? Like how did that all work?
Well, I know Tom Holland from Far From Home because basically I've worked on 6 Marvel productions that are all based out of the UK, from Captain America First Avenger, and then in 2018 met Tom Holland and remade all of his Homecoming suits and the new costumes, the stealth costume and what we called the Bosco suit, because that was the code name for the movie, and the Mysterio costume. So those were all made in-house at Leavesden Studios, and we were into Doctor Strange. We were already shooting, and it was just like, Tom Holland's coming next week. Yeah, they're all coming over. They're all coming, not next week, the week after. Yeah, he's coming. It's like they're going to do this scene in the Sanctum with Spider-Man visiting Doctor Strange and everything. I don't know how it flipped, but it was to do with many things which I can't really tell you about because I don't know.
Sure, it worked out pretty well. All worked out pretty well.
Good.
So I have a question for you, and it is about Wanda's costume. At the premiere, I made Brandon take a whole photo shoot of me in front of that costume because it's my favorite. And so what are the challenges, of creating a costume that kind of says this character is both a hero and a villain?
Yeah, well, out of WandaVision, because we had Lizzie did her first bit of shooting in LA in March of 2020, and then the whole world shut down, and then we had like 5 months on Zoom to sort of, hey guys, what are we going to do about this, and the rewrite. So essentially all the crew were working remotely until not 5 months, but until kind of end of July. And so what about if we do this? What about if we? And so all these new script pages would come out because of many things to do with COVID and also dramatically, so we kind of felt that we had to move the Wanda costume on. This was something that really came directly from Sam, with her kind of beautiful jewel-like costume with its cold shoulder look and somewhat sort of corseted. But I just wanted to give Lizzie more freedom, and the big thing that came into the mix was the Darkhold having such an influence on her and the rest of the movie. So it's like the whole, I mean, to me, it was just like, well, her and the whole costume has taken the brunt of the corruption from the Darkhold. And so it was just to create something that was deteriorated. So we had fabulous printers and dyers and 3D modelers and costume makers. And we just did different things like make the skirt more fluid, because in WandaVision you barely saw her, and then in Doctor Strange she was just flying around camouflage the whole time. So I didn't want Yannick Sers and Cindy to be responsible always for the skirt moving. So we created all of those things for real, and Lizzie loved pretty much all aspects of it.
Do you find that does Elizabeth Olsen or Benedict Cumberbatch or anybody get involved and kind of give you input on things they'd like to see? Do the actors ever say, hey, I'd love to tweak this or have this feature on a costume?
Well, the key to a successful costume is as many fittings as you can get, because it's a bit like you put something on and people are sort of, hey, this is great. And they go home and they go and open their refrigerator and go, hang on, I think that was too big on the shoulder. And they come back and do another fitting, say, I think this is too big on the shoulder, or, literally as simple things as that. But you do need to take time to evolve things and fit them. So you get a lot of feedback from, because they spent years in front of the camera and looking at themselves, and they know what suits them. So there's certain parameters that you don't want to do to, not flatter them, as it were. But generally pretty much they're on board with everything.
Interesting.
And this cast, a number of them have been in a number of Marvels, as you know, so it's like they know what to expect and they know what the deal is. They're on wires, they're fighting, and all of those things.
We need to talk about the Illuminati too, because there are some people who have been in Marvels that were sitting up there as well. How many of those costumes were real, like for Captain Carter or for Captain Marvel variant and all those other people?
Interesting question. Because of this stupid thing called COVID, there was a travel ban, and I was unable to go to the States because I live in the UK here on the South Coast, and basically it got to a point where here's the thing, they had another couple of characters which were in a design stage back in the UK for Boulder the Brave, and because of just the way that we couldn't bring a lot of these actors over because of travel ban in reverse and sort of constraints, we couldn't bring Patrick Stewart over to shoot at the same time as Hayley Atwell. Hayley Atwell was into MI7 and other things. So this sort of dream of getting the Illuminati all in one room at the same time didn't happen in London, and it just about happened in LA over something like a 6-month time span, which is an extraordinary thing. I mean, it's like the Illuminati, when I got those pages, it's just like, this is like a whole movie in itself, because it could just expand so much. And luckily Mordo Chiwetel, we'd already established him wearing that costume, so he wears that fabulous costume in the Judgment Chamber. Strange was already established, and there were a few kind of ideas and tweaks going on because of COVID and travel bans, vice versa. Where they landed was kind of where they landed, which was pretty amazing, really.
Were there a
but
lot
Captain
of,
Carter, so answer your question, Captain Carter, we fitted Hayley a few times in London before she then went to the States on the additional photography. Lashana Lynch did so many fittings with her. She's amazing, and we got a really kind of different but accurate and interesting looking Captain Marvel costume there, completely made from scratch, molded, and all the hard parts on there are kind of molded specific to the person's body. But Reed Richards and Black Bolt, they were a little surprise to me at some point. There were lots of other people talked about as but sadly for me, they're not physical costumes.
Was there anybody who was an almost member of the Illuminati that you got to either start cracking at or wished you got to actually follow through on?
Yeah, we got very far designing Boulder the Brave, and then we were waiting on casting, and that I took it to a prototype stage. We were kind of in that design sort of thing, getting fabrics together and ideas and waiting for an actor. And poor Boulder the Brave, he almost made Thor 1 and Thor 2 and Thor 3, if I can simplify that. And then it was just like, he's going to get an appearance. And then the poor guy, I've seen designs in the Marvel archive for Boulder's helmet going back to Kenneth Branagh's Thor. So, I mean, he's been a long time waiting, and I don't think he's going to make an appearance anytime soon, but yeah.
Right. So you kind of brought up Patrick Stewart as Professor X, and did you get to work on that?
Yes. Yeah, we made his suit. Yeah. He was happy.
Oh, good.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's a lot of the design is based on X-Men the animated series with his chair and everything. And did you look to the show at all, to the animated series when creating that look?
Okay, that was something from Kevin's childhood, the animated series with the kind of bright yellow Dodgem car. Do you call them Dodgems? Do you call them bumper cars? Kind of a fairground kind of ride looking kind of wheelchair. And that was something that was in the animated series. And that came up as like, we're doing this. So the prop guys built that for real. And we shot that in London with photo doubles, and then when it came to additional, they swapped in Patrick Stewart to match the edit that they'd already done. So they did the edit, so the work with him was then condensed, as it were, if that makes sense. But yeah, it was a fantastic image, and the green suit and the striped tie and the white shirt. I mean, Kevin was over the moon that we were doing the green suit, and that was made in London because like there's a tailor shop in London, and we used some fine Yorkshire woolens. So I'd worked with Patrick Stewart some years ago, and then we had a little trip down memory lane. And in fact, his mother worked in the woolen trade in Yorkshire in England. So he was really happy that he was wearing something that came from his sort of mother's sort of heritage of working in that industry. Yeah, I did a Zoom fitting with him at his home in LA. Sent some of the guys from Marvel Studios down there, and I was just chatting to him while they were pinning stuff, and that was the whole thing in COVID. We did so many fittings by Zoom. I mean, even the first, Lizzie Olsen was still shooting on WandaVision, and we piled up some E-crates and sent them all over, packed out her trailer out on the WandaVision lot, and then she was just, hey, what about this one? And then what about this one? And then so she was just trying on. I mean, you might think that the orchard scene was, a simple costume, but all these things still have to be, the jeans, the fit of the jeans, the length of the jacket, the length of the coat. I mean, all those things are. Does it say the right thing? Should it be a leather coat? Should it be a canvas one? Should it be knitwear? You go through all those things to find something that tells a story and does service to the character, and the actor kind of responds to and can then react to and take from the costume into their performance what you kind of give them. Should say to me, no more aprons. I did aprons in WandaVision for days, so I don't want to be farming apples wearing an apron, So.
Your work is incredible. We do have to let you go. I know you have a full day of interviews. My last question as you leave, I have to go to the very end of Doctor Strange and ask if you got to work on Clea when Charlize Theron got to make her debut. Yeah. The inspiration for Clea, if you can leave us with that, I would love to hear anything you can share about working on Clea.
Oh my God. Well, that was, Ian Joyner and John Staub and all those amazing guys at VizDev with all those illustrations. And we made that whole costume in London, but never met. We never met her. So that was quite traumatic in itself. And then I sent that out to LA and did a couple of Zoom fittings with her, and then kind of resolved a few things with the whole amazing costume team at the Marvel warehouse. And then she, 2 or 3 fittings later, that was it. She was on set. But the inspiration, oh my God, that would take another whole interview by itself, because that went from someone who was sort of a gardener in a dreamscape in the multiverse to then this sort of warrior who's a warrior from another dimension, and she is, Dormammu's kind of daughter, niece from the dark dimension. So all of those things were immensely kind of inspiring to her costume, because in the comics it's the shoulders. So I found a way to resolve the shoulders without making them completely solid. If you get a really close look at them, they're actually transparent. They're around the metal frame on the shoulders, so it lets a bit of light coming through, just so that they don't feel like quite so sort of blocky. This
is one of the coolest interviews we've ever done. I could talk to you for the rest of the day. It's killing me that we have to let you go, but I can't tell you how grateful we are for you coming on the show, Graham. Like your work,
not at all.
Hearing you discuss it in such detail is really such an honor. Like, thank you so much for the time. If you ever want to come back on the show, you're more than welcome. But I know our time is up, and I got to let you move on. Thank you so much, Graham, for joining Phase Zero today.
Brandon, hope to see you again. I loved it. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
That was awesome.
That was so cool. Oh
there are things
God.
you don't think about, like
Exactly.
the flowing of a cape and like all this work that goes into it. It's so cool.
My God, and Baldur the Brave was like that close to actually happening. And I actually did. I wanted to clarify if Mr. Fantastic was a real suit, but it sounded like it wasn't because he said Black Bolt was CGI. Yeah. And then he said Black Bolt and Mr. Fantastic were a surprise to him. That's got to be so nerve-wracking. Like, he sent the suit to Charlize Theron to go shoot in LA. He never even saw it being worn. He probably just had to go to the premiere and see it on the screen. Yo, couldn't be me. I'd be terrified.